I'm now going to pass it over to Greg Walker, our Sales Director and Business Development Manager. Greg, good morning, good afternoon, good welcome, sir.
All right, thank you, Chris, and thanks to all of you that took the time to be on this call today. I'm Greg Walker. I'm Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Spatial Integrated Systems. We tend to go by SIS. A lot of people know us by SIS, but they don't even know what it stands for. So it's Spatial Integrated Systems. SIS has a 21-year partnership with Siemens Digital Software. We are a platinum national reseller focused on federal, aerospace and defense, and marine business. That's why this program is so special to us, because it really supports our focus. The program is called Siemens OEM Supplier Program, and we're really excited to share some of the details of this program with you today. So what kind of OEMs are we talking about? OEMs like Northrop Grumman, Pratt Whitney, Collins Aerospace, Boeing Defense and Commercial, Honeywell Aerospace, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, NASA, and most of the other federal and DoD organizations. So it's quite an extensive list. If in doubt, please ask. What kind of suppliers are we talking about? Manufacturers supplying parts and components, engineering, performing design work for the OEMs, or analysis work. All of these activities would qualify under this program. The program really takes advantage of Siemens digitalization to drastically improve the connection and relationship between the OEM and the supplier. The relationship takes advantage of model-based definition, data reuse, collaboration, common platforms and environments, basically all the digital threads that both parties use to streamline to bring the parties together. The goal of this program is to minimize overall costs, improve quality, increase efficiencies, and improve supplier scorecards, which we'll go over in a minute. And other benefits that truly develop this stronger, more agile partnership that's really needed in today's environment. Next, Chris. So what are we talking about? There's trends and implications on both sides. The OEM trends are pretty significant because their product complexity is growing, day after day, and as they go on, there's more complexity. And also, there's tighter timelines. They have to get to market quicker. They have to be more agile. And on the third part is they rely more and more on the suppliers because they can't do all the work themselves. With electronics and all new technology, there's a lot more supplier base out there that's critical to the OEM delivering, their expert products to their customers. So with that, their capacity is expanding. The supplier evaluation is critical too, because they're relying more and more on a broader base of suppliers to handle this complexity. And they need the ability to have scorecards to figure out what suppliers they want to continue to work with, what are delivering on cost and on time. All of that stuff is very, very critical on this. The resiliency is critical, as we've all seen over the last couple of years during COVID, is how much demand that everyone's relying on the supply chain. And so the tighter that we can connect the OEM to the suppliers, the better, and the better risk mitigation that happens. From a supplier standpoint, now you can't just wait for a paper requirement to come over or an email. Now you have to tie more into their digitalization process. You have to stand up with them. You have to accelerate some of that digitalization that maybe that you haven't been that you've been putting off. From a manufacturing standpoint, you want the digital data that you can machine off of and not a paper drawing, for instance. All this requires more investment and more time, more training. So there are challenges from today's suppliers and the future suppliers that you have to take time to invest in. And the agility is really the biggest thing, because all of the requirements for the OEMs pass down to the suppliers. So that time to change on a fly and make those change requests and to be able to deliver as per contract is very, very critical. Next. So I talked about scorecard. So this is a sample supplier scorecard. We're just calling them Apex Machining. And for this company, they have 6 targets that meet delivery dates, quality, cost targets, responsiveness, escapes remedial action, and overall customer satisfaction. These would be the 6 things that the supplier is grading you on to figure out how you're delivering as a supplier relationship. So in this case, the green up arrows are the best, right? So now again, there's a lot of detail and metrics below it, but if you look at these key KPIs, it's sort of a one-glance scorecard to see how you're doing. And what this program is all intended to do is to improve your scorecard. What's important? What's the important metric for you working with your supplier that we can help you out on? That's really what we're here to talk about. Next. So this is one of the first quick poll questions, if you don't mind answering it. What is your biggest concern or pain point with the supplier scorecard? What is your biggest one? We'll give you 30 seconds, 20, 30 seconds to answer it. Is it delivery dates, quality, meeting cost targets, or remedial action? Great. So it doesn't surprise me that meeting cost targets and delivery dates are the most important thing. And so absolutely, that's important. We can show you how this program will help meet that. Quality is a big one as well, because quality usually means that there's going to be a longer term relationship with that supplier or with the OEM. So I wanted to give you 2 examples of 2 of our customers that have benefited from this program. The first one is Empire Dynamics. They're out of Albany, New York, and they're part of the Newport News supplier program, ADFM, but they support Newport News. Their challenges a few years ago were they had this opportunity to get in there and really help them with manufacturing solutions. And they were really concerned because they were a very small company, how they were going to meet delivery dates, just because it was very labor intensive and they had to bring on new hires. And then how are they going to handle their cost targets? And we got them into the ADFM program and got their software out quicker. We really worked on them to get their people trained. And really what happened was they were able to accelerate their hiring. The cost savings on the software allowed them to hire more people. The licensing scheme that we had was able to spread things out over time, which allowed them to buy more software and really reduce their investment to get things moving quickly. And it allowed them to get into more of an opportunity to gain more business from the customer. So where are they currently with them? Their small project contracts turned into long-term contracting. Now they have long-term contracting in Newport News. They have a very high supplier scorecard, which gives them the confidence that they're going to be able to continue to do follow-on business year after year. And you can see the quote by Jeff Moss, the president of Empire Dynamics. And the thing that I just want you to see is he was really happy that he was able to substantially purchase more Siemens software earlier than projected to be able to support their quick staffing and expansion that they had up front. The next example, since I really can't tell you the company name, I'm just going to call them Pennsylvania Company. But they're part of the Northrop Grumman supplier program, working on the GBSD, the Strategic Base Strategic Deterrent Program. Very expensive, a lot of players in this field. I encourage you, if you're, this is a good program to research under Northrop Grumman because they have a lot of suppliers helping them out. But anyway, when I talked to their VP of engineering, it was a very large program. They had tight schedules and they needed to do program expansion, but it was all based on performance. So it was sort of short term, but they knew if they performed, they could get year after year extensions on their contracts. So the schedules, the expense, those were all important things, and they needed to be responsive to change. So you can imagine this is a very large program, a lot of suppliers, things change all the time, and they have to be on the same platform to be able to make those changes and minimize their cost as they go along on that. So what did they realize? They're able to purchase the right size development, identical platform that Northrop Grumman was under. And then the model-based definition really helped because all the information related to the design was on the model itself. That helped with communications and all the decisions that went along. If there were changes, it was quick and easy to make those changes. So what's happened over the last several years? They met their contract requirements and extended performance period twice. They doubled staff and expanded contracting in the program and kept costs down, which was pretty important to them. SIS, we ensured their training in the software environment kept up with what their requirement was on their business. So very successful. So we're going to go to live poll question number 2. What is the primary reason for you attending today's session? Are you looking to become an OEM supplier certified, improve supplier scorecard, better understanding of the Siemens software capabilities, or learn more about this program? Okay, it looks like a 50-50 again. So we have folks on here that are looking to become OEM supplier certified and learn more about this program. So this is good. This is what we're here to do today. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about the program and how to get you certified. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn the second part of this presentation over to Andy Kidd, who runs the ADFM program for Siemens. Andy?
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate everybody's attendance here and looking forward to having this conversation. Again, if you have any questions at all on what we're presenting, please put it in the chat and we'll address those at the end. So as Greg mentioned, I manage the ADFM supplier program. I do work directly for Siemens. I've been in the A&D industry for my whole career for all intents and purposes. And then I work with a number, I have worked with a number of the companies that Greg had illustrated earlier. But in context of Siemens and these companies, we like to think of ourselves as a trusted partner for their future of aerospace and defense. Now, I just want to point out this program is not relegated to just these companies. There's plenty of tier ones that are out there that their names don't show up here. There's also a different category of OEMs out there that are starting to become more plentiful, and that's for like urban air mobility. You know, these aerospace companies that are startup companies or an OEM in their own right, and they're working on some of the new eVTOL type, UAV type systems that they're trying to put in the air, and they need suppliers too. So we do support them as well. Next slide. So as far as the supplier program goes, and Greg put some of this up there already, but just to reiterate a little bit and maybe go into a little bit more detail, it is aimed at the OEMs, right? But it's supporting them and adding value from a Siemens perspective to support, you know, their needs and all that. But they're not successful if you're not successful, if you're not efficient. And we're looking at this as, you know, if we can help them be more profitable, we can help the supply chain be more profitable as well. So as such, we developed this program. We're providing, it's got 3 essential, you know, pieces here, providing preferred pricing to the supply chain, so a lower entry point into advanced engineering and manufacturing software that is largely used by the OEMs that we, you know, on the previous slides, they're using all, you know, our technology, or they're all using our technologies. And by default, the intent here is to extend the digital thread. You might have heard the term digital thread, digital twin, digitalization, all that. So how do we help with the supply chain becoming more efficient, working through their digitalization planning and evolution, as Greg had talked about on the trends slide. So certainly to help streamline and harden those critical downstream processes. And again, a key part of this is to support the ability for you to meet and exceed quality, cost, and delivery metrics, and to improve on your scorecard and your overall customer satisfaction. Next slide. And the areas, again, Greg, you know, illustrated this or discussed this a little bit earlier, but these are the main, you know, areas of focus for us. So certainly the build to print, sort of don't like the build to print trying to get rid of prints, right? So this notion, but the notion is that your piece part, manufacturing, they give you the definition, the requirements in one way or another, and that you're producing turbine blades, structural castings, small machine parts and such. Engineering outsource, you might have some design authority, but more along the lines of analysis, specialized areas, possibly and structural analysis, computational fluid dynamics, heat transfer, things like that. So there's a whole area that we cover there with the supply chain, as well as this notion of a design and build. So you've got maybe more in the area of a tier 1 type company, but there's smaller companies that are lower on the chain that might be providing complete subsystems and such, including some of their own IP. So it doesn't matter anywhere in this ballpark, we're there to help. So just to point out, and you probably already know this, but each one of these suppliers has different needs. And what we try to do is not have a one-size-fits-all program here. So, every one of those, you have different needs, deliverables, what the OEM is going to give you, what you're going to get back. A lot of times the OEM, dictates, more specific. Sometimes they're more general, but it's incumbent, I believe, on the supplier, certainly to meet the basic requirements, but to challenge an OEM too on, hey, I've got some more advanced technology. Why are you giving me a drawing? I really could use a model-based definition. And then it shows more, abilities and expertise on your side. So along those lines of maybe upping your game or helping you improve, or to certainly get in the game, each supplier that we work with, that say Greg would get involved with SIS, would be evaluated and provided the appropriate solutions, whether it's scalable. Again, we very scalable on what you need, certainly what you don't need, making them as economic as possible, and not to minimize their expertise that they can bring to bear on installation, training, and mentoring to help you meet your needs to better support your commitments to the OEMs or your customers. And then, like we're talking with SIS today, but they're part of our extensive partner network that's vetted in the aerospace and defense area. That's where we focus in on, of which SIS is one of our premier partners along those lines. Next slide. Okay, and so now what areas of focus? Greg discussed this, a little bit earlier, but this notion of working within these specific areas that will help improve. These all map: model-based definition, extending the digital thread, quality, data management, cost management, and scheduling. More advanced capabilities along those lines certainly help you meet your cost, quality, delivery, and overall customer satisfaction metrics. That's the intent here, to go into the ones that make the most sense for you, based on maybe your supplier scorecard, based on the discussion that you have with Greg and his team. Which are the areas that make the most sense? And I'll go into each one of these areas. Again, those all map back to the supplier scorecard in one way or another. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice it's more of a as is, and on the right side, talking a bit more on the to be and what you could, the possibilities. So we want to move you from traditional drawings if you're not already moved. We want you to be able to get a model-based definition from your customer and not work at dumbing it down into drawings you need to drive your current manufacturing processes. But the notion of leaving things in that 2D state is old school, and we want you to move new school. So model-based definition support is and more companies, more OEMs are pushing a model-based definition, no drawings, embedded PMI, eliminates those needs for 2D drawings, and and help, make sure that everything's all in one spot and you're meeting, and you understand the product, specifications exactly. And again, the last thing we want you to do is to take that on the right-hand side and turn it into 2D drawings. Next. All right, so more along those lines, and actually this will map into a conversation that Greg will wrap up with on a next step that you'll be invited to discuss how to do that, right? It's a little bit of an eye chart, but bear with me. On the left-hand side, disconnected processes. You got multiple CAD tools, multiple formats, whether you're just creating a paper drawing, you're doing translations into another CAM system and another CMM system, or else programming them on the machine tool. And in both cases, you might be creating work instructions in PowerPoint by taking screenshots and putting them on a PowerPoint and then PDFing them and sending them out to the shop. Those kinds of things, all disconnected, a bunch of translations, and then what if something changes in the product definition? Now you're chasing down all that information and trying to figure out where it was used and populated and what needs to change in that. On the right-hand side, we've got a holistic system that can help you pull all that together, leveraging the model-based definition directly and pulling that in and creating the downstream information for all those same processes we just talked about. Key thing here is if the model-based definition changes, we automatically know where it changes, which would then ensure data integrity and making sure that you're working to the right revision of KPIs or just the part in general. Next. Okay, quality, again, disconnected processes, multiple applications, a lot of paper, things like that. Many points of failure, again, having information in multiple places and trying to find, if you got a quality escape, where is that information that I need? What if you had an enterprise quality application that supports continuous quality improvement, a quality management system that might, just map to certification from, say, IS 9100 type certification, just because I deployed that application and I'm using it. APQP, Six Sigma tools to do root cause analyses if your customers are asking, what did you do to fix a quality escape? And things like that. Certainly SPC goes along for the ride on being able to understand trends and proactive process improvement. Next. Data management. So today, a lot of small companies will have folders that they have naming conventions for files, access to those files by specific individuals, just a naming convention on a drawing or a file that says it was made by, at this point on this revision of a part and so on. Then you roll a rev on that, naming convention updates, a lot of fat fingering that could happen. You can do this. This is you can get certified doing this, but there's lots of areas, places for this to fall apart, especially if you stress the system, you get a lot more work in, and making sure that you've got, you're maintaining your process and training of the people in that process and all that. What if you had a managed data solution? What if you had a product or a system that manages the data revisions, ensuring that, based on a role of a person, that they have access to this piece of data and not that piece of data. That when you roll a rev, you can't step on an already released, part. Things like that. Eliminates errors. It also helps improve our cybersecurity compliance and such. Next. Cost management. So again, going from disconnected master data on, it's in people's folders and their, on their desks, on paper, spreadsheets and things like that, the cost estimators and such. Maybe not so much a common methodology. How do you transfer that data when somebody leaves and you got a new person coming in? There's limited transparency in the cost calculations and things like that. So what if you had a digital product that integrated all that stuff, that helped you capture all that information, that had databases of information like tariff rates and hourly rates and things like that, and the ability to reuse, more readily reuse, to incorporate 3D aspects of the model that you're manufacturing or that you're quoting on. And then multiple scenarios, like what if you're going to, do some of it in-house versus all of it, and then maybe outsource some of it and do some what if scenarios and things like that. So a solution that could help you become more efficient and more predictable back up to your OEM and making sure that you're meeting your cost goals. Next. Lastly is scheduling. So a lot of small shops have whiteboards, sticky notes, dry erasers, things like that, defining the lines. But it's hard to cope with dynamic, problems. What if a machine tool goes down? How am I going to route around that? And then what if my new delivery dates? How does that affect my delivery dates? That's a time-consuming analysis, whether it's up front when you're estimating, the costs versus to manufacture versus what if you have to, change things, whether it's a change because you lost a machine tool or a change because the customer asked for a change, right? Change quantity, due dates, things like that. And then now you're scrambling trying to come up with what that is or what that means. And then not just to say you're going to do it, but to be able to ensure that you can do it. Now, if you can't do it, that as well. So you don't give them false hope that you're going to send them something, send them parts before you really are able to do so. So a digital solution is designed to make all of the better decisions, react faster to that machine tool being down or that due date change or quantity change, certainly to help you improve productivity and obviously to improve overall customer satisfaction. Next. So we do all that through our accelerator portfolio. In that ring around the accelerator, those are all the different areas that we have software solutions, manufacturing, operations, mechanical, simulation are the ones that we chatted about mostly today. We do a lot more, but again, I just wanted to point out that this is highly scalable from an SMB need to a Lockheed Martin need and everywhere in between. And certainly adaptable. We put a ton of effort in making it easy to use and certainly flexible and open. Next. And that's part and parcel of the Siemens, and I put SIS in here. It's not relegated totally to SIS, but they're a partner on this conversation. So Siemens and SIS ADFM supplier program supporting these OEMs down through the supply chain. And the final slide is execution. So basically, the notion on the lower left is, do any of these folks mean anything to you and or like the tier ones or similar companies as that? If so, we can qualify you. Say Greg and I would sit down and qualify you as a supplier. For instance, if you were one of those OEMs, so I talked about SMB OEMs, like you're putting a eVTOL in the air, you wouldn't qualify. Now their suppliers would, but I'd say no, you can't get the program discounts. So we'll qualify you as a valid A&D supplier. We provide preferred pricing on accelerator portfolio for you, and that's through our vetted partners like SIS, again, that are very fluent in the A&D industry and supporting it, that will pick up on those 6 threads there and then some, including training and mentoring and such that you're going to need to go along for the ride, and certainly to improve your overall customer satisfaction. And then certainly we're hoping that your scorecard has all those up arrows, and that we'd like to support you and be a partner with you along those lines. Well, that's all I had. I'd like to turn it back over to Greg for wrap up.
Great, thanks, Andy. Yeah, a couple notes of what Andy just mentioned. Yeah, we're not the only game in town, but we are the game in town. So SIS, we have 21 years experience. We understand the industry. We've been doing this program for quite some time. We're going to make you successful with this program. So that's why we're excited about it. That's why we're bringing this to you. Another note, Andy mentioned this accelerator solution, and as a small supplier, you might be overwhelmed because there's a lot there. And that's why the OEMs use the software, because it does have this vast capability. But rest assured, we like to follow an adoption strategy. So one of the things we'll talk about here is not just getting you qualified, but we're more than happy to sit down and do an assessment with you to say, you know what, let's bite this off in chunks. Let's get your CNC automated so you can benefit from the model base. We'll look at your CMM stuff later and maybe your data management after that, and some of the analysis and other requirements that you might have. So we want to work with you and make you successful over time. This OEM program is a growth program for you. It's not a one and done. We're not looking to get you in there for one job and then you get out. This is a program to get you in there, build that relationship, work on that scorecard, and be their supplier that they want to keep coming back for whatever you're offering. So that's key. So I wanted to mention those two things, and it's all about data reuse and the digital process, and those are the common threads that we talk about during this. So number one, how do we get you qualified and schedule your free assessment? So there's my contact information, okay, gwalker@sysinc.org. My number is right there. You can put a note in the comments here. You can send an email, whatever you want to do. We are ready to get you qualified. It's a free program, by the way. I don't think anyone said that yet. It's free. There's no strings attached. You're not committed to anything. So you don't have to go get approval from anyone in your organization. But we'll sit down and talk to you about that, and it's a quick process to get you approved. You pretty much have a feeling if you qualify or not, just based on what we talked about today. And I mentioned this free assessment. So we're not going to give you a big horse pill to swallow. We're going to give you little spoons, little things that you can consume and be part of your plan to say, this is how you get started. This is what you can work on first. Now you have to work with us too to say, well, Greg, listen, we have an opportunity here to get in early to take over this supplier market for this one supplier. So how can you help us maximize us to get that business? And we can sit down and work with you on that to come up with a strategy that will allow you to do that. So that's really the wrap up from that standpoint. The second thing is we talked a little bit about model-based definition today. We have another follow-up webinar scheduled on the 8th of September. We're going to get into more detail and actually show you. Andy showed this workflow to the right, which is the eye chart. But again, it illustrates we're not tossing drawings over and bringing up spreadsheets. We have a digital thread, a flow of digital data that's connected. There's a true source of data, there's quality built in, and things work together, and it allows you to make changes, to be responsive. It shows the OEM that you're bought into their solution, that you're willing to get connected and to work in their environment. And that's really what we're talking about. But we're going to show you how to improve quality, speed, eliminate that repetitiveness, the manual stuff, reduce your costs. And man, I can't talk enough about data reuse. You will really learn how to become specialists in certain areas and reuse the data in our environment to be experts in what you're doing. The follow-up link here is the digital manufacturing white paper. Anyway, we have live questions. We have a few already queued up, but if you have additional questions, please go to the chat window and ask some questions. I have a couple queued up already that I will start with, but please continue, keep them coming. The first question I'm going to turn over to Andy, I think. What do we have to do to get qualified, Andy?
Okay, yeah, I mentioned a little bit about that, but again, the key thing is to contact Greg, and he'll bring me in as needed. He typically needs to do that anyway, and so we'll work together with you to qualify you. What we typically ask for is a redacted PO from one of your A&D customers. Like if you're working with Northrop Grumman, they've provided you some sort of an invoice or what have you, you know, an RFP, anything, whatever you have that you can redact, that you're working with them, and that's a key indicator that you'll have no problem qualifying for the supplier program. But I think we can work with you all along those lines.
Okay, great. The next question is, I will take this one. It says, do you provide specialized training to help to get us up to speed quickly? It's a great question, and yes, we do. SIS, since we understand this program, we understand the accelerator solution set. We have resources to do training. We can come to your company. We can do remote training. We have basic training. We have mentoring. We have consulting. We have, you know, we can bring in aerospace folks too, if that's a requirement. The other thing is accelerator. When you remember the circle that went around that Andy showed, there is basically a self-paced training subscription that you can get to cover all the training classes, and it's, you know, it basically puts everything in there. So the nice thing is it's each user can get a subscription to that, and they can do it at their own pace. We like to have that as sort of the backup, and we really do encourage, you know, either group training or some specialized training through SIS. Let's see, one more. Oh, there's another question. So what if I have MBD in a format but don't know what to do with it? Well, let me. Okay, so in September we'll go over that a lot. So what I would suggest, if that means a lot to you, definitely join that webinar. But two things: if you're getting the MBD in the format of Siemens already and you don't know what to do with it, and let's say you're doing manufacturing, you can actually utilize that data right into your operations, into your machines. All that data is there. You can generate your operations from your CAM software and take it from there without having to go into any kind of drawing or any other information. It's got your tolerance information, your manufacturing, all the information is right there. If you, let's say you bring in CAD neutral format step, but you're going to use it over and over again, so you want to make something of it, we would encourage you to basically create and put some intelligence into that model. And the Siemens tools has something called synchronous technology that allows you to add to the data, to put in PMI, to add, take in dumb data and actually make it intelligence. It's very impressive technology, and it can really add to the value of your value stream for data reuse and efficiencies. Another question: can you guys provide a turnkey of a part or series of parts to help us hit the ground running, to include parts, programs, and post-machine? It's a great question. Our team, we create posts and sim kits. So if you have very complex machines, the annex post and simulation are, you know, it's a one-time thing to get your machine to be able to talk from the CAM software into your machine directly. But the other thing that SIS does, we work with several of our customers. We do the training, and then we work with them on several of the new parts and help them program and help them get the programming necessary so they can start machining day one. Absolutely, we offer that as a service, and we pride ourselves in that capability.
Thank you very much, Andy, for being a part of today's presentation. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We look forward to having informative conversations with you down the road. This session is now ended. Thank you.